Hi everyone. Thanks, Aral. That was really inspiring. Miram Rama. So I'm here today to tell the story of Ushahidi, which is a Kenyan company, and Ushahidi means testimony in Swahili. So I used to live in Nairobi, and I really loved it. I love the weather. It's like spring all year round. I love the food. It's all fresh and organic. It's all grown right there. And the people are super friendly and really welcoming. What I didn't like about living in Nairobi was the extremely high rate of crime. Many of my friends were mugged in broad daylight at gunpoint. Colleagues of mine were carjacked very often. And Nairobi actually has the nickname Nai-robbery in East Africa. All of that is nothing compared to what happened in 2008. This was when the general election happened in Kenya. As you can see, there were huge queues for voting stations. People were very excited. There was a huge sense of national pride. Many of my colleagues lined up and voted very early in the morning. Unfortunately, the election results were very contentious. There was widespread allegations of fraud and electoral manipulation. And unfortunately, the situation deteriorated into a spiral of violence, and about 1,000 people were killed all over Kenya because of tribalism. And the media had actually blacked this out, so people weren't aware of what was going on the ground and weren't sure what was happening. So a group of bloggers came together, and they created a mashup between SMS and Google Maps. And what this allowed them to do was to be able to see what was happening on the ground from citizen-generated reports. And this is the platform that they created right here, the very first Ushahidi platform. And what you can see are these little marks on the map, and they show posts from citizens saying, you know, violence is here, someone's been attacked here, something bad has happened here. And for the first time, citizens were able to actually have a voice and share what they saw. And responding organizations could then actually see this information and do something about it. So from the very beginning, Ushahidi has been focused on helping communities to self-organize and to help themselves get through crises. So what's happening here? Can I get some ideas? Football? Football? Okay, it's actually a protest. It's a huge protest in Brazil about the hike in transportation fees. These are all students. And my point is that it's actually very hard to see what's happening at a granular level on the ground. And the problem is that citizens don't have a voice, and the people who actually can help them and can deal with situations like this, which could potentially turn bad, can't see where to go and understand at a very detailed level what's going on. So the way Ushahidi deals with this is through the concept of crowdsourcing. I'm sure you're all techies, you've all heard of it. It's basically taking information from many, many people, putting it together, and spotting trends and patterns in that. It's like crowdfunding, but with information. And now, of course, is the perfect time to do this. There's more data than ever in the world. This is the default device all across Africa, Asia, Latin America. I heard recently that there are more devices like this than there are toothbrushes in the world. And as the son of a dentist, that worries me a little bit. But as a technologist, I'm really happy about that. So there's all this data around. It's going to help everyone. Why aren't we using it more? Any ideas? No one knows? Okay. Basically, it's scattered. It's all over the place. How do we bring it into one place and see it properly? Formatting it properly is a huge barrier, you know. We have tweets, we have emails, we have SMS. How do we put that all into the same structure so we can actually analyze and filter data properly? And then actually finding it is a huge challenge as well. How do we reach out to people and ask them, you know, please send us information about your situation or where you are? So there are many challenges to getting data. And the way that Ushahidi tries to solve these challenges is through our technology. So this is the main feature of our crowdsourcing platform. You can collect data from SMS, Twitter, email, and web forms, put it all into one place. You can see almost in real time what's happening on the ground in a situation and be updated. And then you can actually tell a story through that data afterwards. You can see charts of what's happening. You can break it down into categories. You can see on a map where the hotspots are, where the action is. And this is what we've come up with today after 8 years of building technology. This is what we have. This is our crowdsourcing platform. It was released last year, and a lot of work has gone into this. We've actually listened to a lot of our users over time. We've run user studies, we've done user testing. We've worked very, very hard to make this a powerful, easy to use, simple tool that people can use to crowdsource data. And these are the results. In 8 years, we've had 100,000 deployments of the software. So communities all over the world have taken it and used it 100,000 times, which is 34 maps created every day. 7 million posts have been created with Ushahidi. 20 million people have been reached by these posts. That's the equivalent of the population of the Netherlands. And these are all the countries Ushahidi has been used in. 160 countries around the world, including Kosovo as well, which if you look carefully actually isn't in this list. And the tool was made in Africa originally, so it's an African success story. Thank you. Of course, it takes a team to get this kind of impact, and this is the team. This is Ushahidi. This is 30 people we have from all over the world. About half the team is Kenyan. We're a very diverse team. We have about 50% of our staff is female, from 11 countries and 11 different time zones. And we really feel that this diversity helps us to understand the needs of users all across the world and actually create software and tools that help people to solve their own problems better. And what drives us is changing the way information flows. So instead of top-down, media sending information to everyone, we want bottom-up. We want information from the people filtering up to the people. And we really feel that this is a hugely effective way to help communities to help themselves and to solve their own problems. And that's what really, really motivates us and keeps us going. So over the years, we've seen that about 3/4 of the deployments that we've seen fall into 3 categories of social impact. Crisis response. So victims of disasters can say, we need help here, this is somewhere where we need aid, this is what we need. Responding organizations can more effectively help them, go to them, give them what they need in time. Human rights monitoring. So empowering victims of human rights abuses to safely and anonymously report what's happening, and for the agencies that help them, the NGOs, to actually respond more appropriately and more quickly. And citizen and government interaction. So letting citizens group together, tell the government what they want, whether it's improved public services, fixing potholes, or even, less fraud in an election. And for governments to show accountability through the platform as well. Okay, so I'm going to give you a few examples of how Ushahidi has been used around the world, and these particularly resonate with me. In Chennai in November 2015, they had the highest amount of rainfall in over 100 years, which led to widespread flooding, and about 1,000 people were killed because of this. And it was made worse by a lot of unregulated development over the years. The Hindu Times asked people in Chennai to send in tweets whether they had help or they wanted help, using some simple hashtags like Chennai floods help, Chennai floods, etc. These are the kind of tweets that they received, and they put them on their site. So, very simple requests for cartons, ladles, sacks, and bags, and then those offering help with what they have. This was great, but the problem was there was still an element of coordination missing. So, a member of the diaspora in Boston, actually, who used to live in Chennai, took Ushahidi and said, okay, what if I can pull all these tweets in with help and people requesting help and actually map them? As you know, many tweets are geotagged, so it's very easy to do with existing data. So he took Ushahidi and did this, and this is the result. It's a map of all the aid requests and the offers of assistance. And that's actually helped the community in Chennai, the volunteers, to help each other better. They were able to see where aid was and see where aid was needed and make those connections much faster, simply by seeing it on a map. In 2013, there was widespread violence in South Sudan, the civil war there, and actually erupted spectacularly And the president of Kenya, Uhuru Kenyatta, made a vow to take all the Kenyans in South Sudan and evacuate them to safety. This was in the middle of December in 2013, almost at Christmas time. And what the Kenyan government did was they came to Ushahidi for help. They said, "We don't know where all our citizens are in Kenya. In South Sudan. Can you help us find them?" So one of my colleagues, Linda Kamau, spent her Christmas day setting up an Ushahidi deployment to gather reports of where citizens of Kenya in South Sudan were to send them to the government. And the Kenyan government was successfully able to offer evacuation and get these people out. And this is an example of a successful evacuation. In India, violence against women is a huge problem. It's a taboo subject, so it's not very often talked about in the country. And a woman called Elsa decided to do something about this and stop it. So she deployed Ushahidi 3 years ago and collected over 7,000 reports from women about harassment in the street, catcalling, name-calling, all that kind of stuff. And she put it on a map. These are the kind of reports she got of sexual harassment from ordinary citizens around India. And one example that particularly stuck out was a tea stall in Delhi. This isn't actually it. This is a stock image that I found that kind of illustrated it. So none of these men are guilty at all. But what happened was that women were afraid to go on a particular route because there was a tea stall where men would stare at them and make them feel very uncomfortable. So they would take a much longer and more difficult and more dangerous route to where they wanted to go. And this was a big problem. You know, there was an invisible barrier here in their own city. What could they do about it? So Elsa ran a workshop with these girls who reported this issue. And they decided to redesign the city a little bit. They said, okay, what if we could actually shame the men and change what's happening here? And they made a mural where the tea stall was, and this is the mural. And as you can see, it has a lot of staring eyes. And the message here in Hindi says, "Look with your heart, not with your eyes." And this was very effective. It actually changed the situation. Now where that tea stall was, there's a fruit stall. And the owner of the fruit stall points to the mural and says to the men there, "Don't stare at the woman here." So by using Ushahidi, Elsa was able to identify a problem and work with the community to fix it. So we are technologists at Ushahidi. We think technology is a hugely powerful tool. But one mantra that we live by is that if you think you understand technology, and if you think technology can solve all your problems, then you don't understand the problem properly. And one thing we tell everyone who uses our software is that if you think technology is the whole part of a project and can solve all your problems, it's untrue. We've seen that technology is only 10% of a successful solution. So I want you to keep that in mind, and thank you very much.